This map shows the top of the globe, an area that for most of human history has been an isolated, inhospitable expanse. 8 nations share borders along the Arctic Circle. For centuries, the massive sheet of sea ice covering the Central Ocean acted as a natural barrier, keeping these nations separated by an impenetrable frozen shield. But that shield is dissolving. The Arctic is warming twice as fast as the rest of the planet, triggering record declines in sea ice. Current scientific projections indicate by 2040, Arctic summers will be entirely ice-free. Since the end of the Cold War, this region has served as a quiet arena for scientific research and intergovernmental cooperation. The harshest environment on Earth forced rival nations to work together simply to survive it. Now, the receding ice is exposing thousands of miles of new coastline, effectively creating a fourth coast for the bordering nations, suddenly vulnerable to open water navigation. The disappearance of this ice shield creates a trillion-dollar opening for nations to compete for control of the region. The most immediate prize is geographical. As the ice clears, vessels can utilize the northern sea route to ship cargo directly across the top of Russia. This path cuts transit times between Asia and northern Europe by 40% compared to the traditional route through the Suez Canal. Beneath the newly navigable water lies the second prize. The Arctic seafloor holds massive, untapped reserves of oil and gas, along with vast deposits of the critical minerals and rare earth elements required to power modern technology. To claim these resources, countries operate under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. This legal framework dictates who gets to exploit the ocean floor. The 5 coastal states bordering the Central Ocean, Russia, Canada, the US, Norway, and Denmark, are actively mapping their continental shelves. If a nation can prove the seafloor is a natural physical extension of its landmass, it secures exclusive economic rights to the resources buried there. The governments mapping these seabeds today are securing the legal rights to extract the resources and control the shipping lanes that will dictate global trade for the next century. One nation already holds a massive lead. Russia controls roughly half of the Arctic coastline and has assorted territorial claims over the region, including the North Pole itself, dating back to a Soviet decree in 1926. They also possess the physical infrastructure to back up those claims. Russia operates the world's largest fleet of heavy, nuclear-powered icebreakers, allowing them to navigate and assert presence in areas the other states cannot reach. Over the last 2 decades, Moscow has rapidly remilitarized the high north. They are reopening abandoned Soviet-era military bases along the coast and deploying nuclear-capable submarines to patrol beneath the ice. Meanwhile, a powerful outsider is pushing its way in. Despite being thousands of miles away, China has controversially declared itself a near-Arctic state to justify its expanding footprint in the region. Beijing is aggressively investing in what it calls a polar Silk Road. They deploy heavy research vessels and finance infrastructure projects in northern ports to embed themselves into the emerging Arctic economic architecture. The convergence of Russia's heavy military control and China's strategic financial investments presents a direct threat to Western interests. Together, they are positioning themselves to monopolize access to the top of the globe. For years, the United States and its allies largely ignored this buildup. Now, they are scrambling to address a severe strategic vulnerability in their northern defenses. Following Russia's broader aggressions in Europe, the alliance moved decisively. The recent accession of Finland and Sweden into NATO shifted the balance of power, placing 7 Arctic nations under a single defense umbrella. Western militaries are actively updating their defense postures. They are increasing maritime patrols, investing in their own icebreakers, and conducting extensive cold-weather combat training near the Arctic Circle. Beyond military readiness, the West is looking to secure its supply chains. Greenland, a self-governing territory of Denmark, has become highly strategic due to its massive, newly exposed deposits of rare earth elements, materials currently dominated by Chinese suppliers. This sudden mobilization is a calculated effort to secure access to critical materials and break a reliance on rival nations for the components necessary to build advanced defense systems and civilian technology. The era of Arctic exceptionalism, where the region was treated as an isolated, peaceful zone, has given way to permanent strategic competition. Future friction in the region is increasingly defined by hybrid warfare and gray zone tactics, targeting the vital fiber optic cables that link our digital economies. There is a glaring hypocrisy in this rush for territory. Superpowers are bringing heavy industrial machinery and military fleets into an ecosystem that is already rapidly collapsing due to human activity. Yet the world desperately needs the critical minerals buried in the Arctic. Transitioning global economies away from fossil fuels requires millions of tons of lithium, cobalt, and rare earth elements to build electric vehicles and renewable energy grids. Those specific green tech minerals are only becoming physically accessible because climate change is melting the ice that protected them. Balancing the need to extract these resources against the risk of escalating military conflict will dictate the foreign policy of the U.S. and its allies for the foreseeable future. The receding ice has turned a remote environmental crisis into a direct race for resources and trade routes. This region is no longer a distant warning sign for the planet. It is where the next century of global power will be decided.